Welcome to the Friday edition of Talking Horses. Sarah Badwi here, joined by Paul Verderosa, and we are looking forward to some racing action here today. Cigar Mile Day coming up tomorrow. Plenty of things going on with Oaklawn Park opening today. We have the Mute Mile from Caymanas Park coming up tomorrow in Jamaica, and plenty of racing today. Very competitive card, and I know we didn't race yesterday because of some heavy winds going on, but excited to be back and looking forward to today's card.
Yeah, a little something for everybody today and over the weekend here. So hopefully we have some great, safe racing and have some winners too along the way.
That's the hope. And
Yeah.
of course, you'll want to get started and play with Naira Bets. You can head on over to nairabets.com, get signed up with that promo code bonus200. You'll get your $200 deposit match sign up bonus. You can scan that QR code. Flavian Pratt will be in town tomorrow to ride some of those graded stakes, as well as track stats, see how the track is playing. You can get weekly track trends, stats, and betting insights over at nairabets.com. And we do have the Aqueduct Saturday contest tomorrow, big one, Cigar Mile Day, $300 buy-in. Head on over to nairabets.com/contest to see what's going on with that, as well as we mentioned, Oaklawn opening day, $3,000 hit and split. If you hit the late pick 3 at Aqueduct and or Oaklawn Park, you'll have to opt in over at Naira Bets. We do also have a cross-country pick 5 today. Races 7 and 8 from here, races 5, 6, and 7 from Oaklawn Park. We do have a team on site there today, and you can catch all of the action on America's Day at the races. We start at 12, we end at 6 today, all on FS2. So quite the marathon day to come back to right here. And we'll get things started with the first race today. It's a maiden claiming event for the New York breds, the 2-year-old fillies, and lot of stuff to be desired, I would say, in this race as far as what we've seen from some of these horses with experience so far. You went to one of them on top with Just Words.
I kind of feel like in Just Words' case that, you know what, at least the figures have been going in the right direction with each start, albeit incrementally. But really, how good are you going to have to be to win this race with this group if neither one of the first-time starters show up with any kind of solid effort in here? Plus, I also think with an outside draw today and going the 6 furlongs, I think this horse is going to be a little bit forward with Jose Lezcano in here. And I think if this horse can actually kind of show some speed and be within range or maybe even be on the lead in here, he may just not stop.
It just seemed like such a merry-go-round race that this one was in last time, and Infatuation did finish ahead of Just Words, but it seemed as though she was the one who got the right kind of trip, just towards the inside, able to save ground the whole way, and that was over a muddy sealed surface where we did see Infatuation have that big improvement versus her other dirt starts, but was it a function of the racetrack, and was she sort of just pulled along and kept in contention versus Just Words, who I think maybe deceptively did a little bit more running in that race, and you look around at this field and you have the top rated buyer speed figure in this race being a 30. And so that is sort of what led me to a horse that on paper doesn't really look to be a contentious type. You have the number 5 Instant Vision going out for a trainer who is over with his first time starters over the past 5 years with Randy Persaud. He hasn't been able to get a 2-year-old winner really in many of his starts. He's 2 for over the past 5 years as well. And the sire, Instagram, he doesn't do well with his first time starters in this first crop as we've seen. He's 3%. He's gone 2 for 62. But when you do look at the dam side of this pedigree, there is a little bit more precocity to of those horses that have started out of 4, did win first time out, going longer on the dirt and then going longer on the turf, albeit. But there was another foal that did finish second first time out, and it seems as though this horse could possibly be one that is able to run a little bit more than a 30 buyer first time with that dam side precocity. And I like the float up in the very early money. And it just seems as though the horse that is taking all the money is the other first-time starter. And Flying P, they had that amazing run at Saratoga, and things have cooled off a little bit since.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you look at this horse, it's the first foal, but the dam did sprint successfully. Bruce Levine's got good numbers with first-time starters. The one I pulled was 6 for 20, 9 in the money. 559 ROI, so there was a big price in there too. First-time 2-year-old sprinting on the dirt here at Naira. So my biggest problem is I feel like in a way that even though this is the first time starter, just based on the field, it kind of is the horse to beat, and this horse was going to take money in this spot. It's just hard to take a rider who just hasn't won here, and now you're going to put this on a horse who's going to be 6-5 or even money in here. I don't know. Maybe this horse is just going to be good enough, and she'll be good on debut to beat this field, but I was going to take my chances with a little bit more of a price.
Yeah, looking for somebody that is good enough to defeat this field. There's not a lot to sink your teeth into in the first race, but things do get a little bit more formful as we move on, going into the second race of the day, where I think this is a pretty contentious field based on what we've seen from these runners so far.
Yeah.
And your morning line favorite is Forward Move at 9-5, a horse who seems to need a little bit of pace to close into, but has been in great form as of late and has some of the faster numbers coming into this field. I think the question is just, does the pace materialize for this one in this spot?
Yeah, I guess that's the question you have to ask yourself. And listen, last time out, it's just when you watch this race, man, took him forever. Just doesn't want to change that lead either last time out, and that probably cost him. But listen, he's run good enough races to win in here, and he's got a nice inside post again to be forward and kind of have his own trip in here. I was impressed, actually, with the way Hatch ran in this race, too, because held his form, on the
He's
rising
been in great
class.
form lately, too.
Yeah, ran really well on the rising class in there. So, I mean, I have these horses second and fourth in here. I just had a little bit more of a cute idea. I mean, they could win in here. I probably want to have Hatch at a bigger price over Forward Move, but, to each their own.
And I think a big factor in how that pace may or may not materialize is the horse that you ended up picking on top in Beaver State, who I thought was very game in that last start that we can take a look at, finishing second after being very forward in a race where the winner was able to have more of a stalking trip in Magnificent Mile. And my only question with this horse is that big jump up in numbers to go from a 69 to an 82 buyer, if we're going to see something sort of in the middle ground or if we're going to see a repeat of that last performance.
It's kind of funny because when you look at this race and you kind of pick apart some of the runners, now we talked many times on this show about Sorority Prank being a horse that doesn't have that much heart, but all of a sudden ran second at 39-1, coming in the race. And then also, the third place finisher was from well off the pace and came back and ran. So I don't know. I just feel like it was the first time in New York, was 3-4 wide in that race. I think has a little bit more to give with a better trip today. I don't mind the cutback in distance for this horse either that much in here to 6.5. So if this horse can even come close to replicate this number, get a little bit of pace in front with the number 5 play in here, and we'll see what Forward Move does. And if Hatch is forward again, I think this horse falls into a good trip in here.
Certainly seems like the one that's coming into some good form and play. As you mentioned, we'll take a look at his last win here. And this is one that I've never really been in love with, did win, and then was avoided claim for the $40,000 tag, came back to finish a good second at a short price. And we haven't seen this horse in a little while, but Timeform US projects this horse to be your pace setter and get a comfortable lead. And we'll see what Beaver State has to say about that. Linda Rice, off 180 plus days, on the dirt in sprints with non-maidens. The numbers aren't great for her when you look at past 5 years overall, but when you narrow that down to horses that are 2-1 and under, it's actually a pretty incredible stat for a small sample size. She's 5 for 8, she's 63%, 7 for 8 in the money, and a $3.01 ROI over the past 5 years. So when they get bet and are supposed to run, they do generally show up, and it seems like this is going to be one of the shorter prices in this race. So I was just hoping that he could come back fresh and be able to show some of that good speed and hopefully doesn't get pressed too much. But moving on to race number 3 today, it's an allowance optional claiming event. I love seeing these allowance races for the 2-year-olds because you do often have that dilemma of horses that win first time out or in their second start, and then it's usually right into stakes company because there just aren't that many spots for them to go into. So this is a nice middle ground option, and we do see a pretty competitive field in here. The entry is going to take money, of course. Uncle Jim, one-man team, but neither of them have run particularly fast races that make them such standouts in comparison to some of the other horses that they're going to be facing in here. And the one that's coming in with the fast race is Cyclone State, a horse that I ultimately did end up picking on top just based on that 82 buyer speed figure last time out and being able to win at a mile as well.
Yeah, this was a nice race because this horse broke sharp, kind of cleared quick, and Louis Rivera Jr. let this horse get into a nice little rhythm, and stay within himself and kind of run well. And then this horse drew off late. This was a solid effort. To be fair, in the race before that, too, the winner of that race is actually not a bad dirt horse, more bred for the dirt anyway, and the race came off the turf. So, listen, put it all together last time. It'll be interesting to see from an inside post today what happens. Obviously, the plan's going to be the same. They're going to send the horse. We'll see what one-man team does, stretching out in here. But listen, last race was definitely a step in the right direction for this horse.
I think so, and I agree with you about Aviator Guy as well, off the turf race, but horses that had shown some ability on the dirt. And Uncle Jim going in for Brad Cox, of course, part of that entry that we're going to see and hear. Won first out at Keeneland, was a short price in this race, did have to maneuver a little bit through some traffic, but overall it just did not come back as a very fast race on buyers. So we'll need to take a step forward if that is the case.
Yeah, listen, distance isn't going to be a problem. Just what I saw, I think, is going to be a problem because this horse is going to take a lot of money based on the trip that we see here. And listen, this horse had horses all around him the entire race. So kind of give him credit because he got a nice rail run in the stretch and was able to find room. But that's exactly what it was. Found room on the inside, got a nice trip, and got the job done. It's Brad Cox, going to take money. And now you're with a Brittany Russell horse who ran well on debut as well. So it's going to actually pile on even more of the money. Listen, I'm sure this entry is probably going to be 3 to 5 in here or 4 to 5 in here, and maybe they will run well. Uncle Jim's going to come from off the pace, I would assume, again. So, he's probably the one you want, but I don't know. I wouldn't play this entry today at a short price.
And I was
in the winner's circle, but who knows?
Right, and I was actually a little bit more impressed with a one-man team, slightly faster race on buyers, a 68 winning first time out at Laurel, and I think that when you have both parts of an entry that are going to take money, come in off wins, took money first time out, and you put them together, it's just really messing with your price even more. And I liked the professionalism from this horse. I thought that this was a very good debut for him. If we can take a look at that race from Laurel for one-man team, and I don't know. I think it just really adds to the overtly overbet type of entry. Showed a lot of speed. I think that he wasn't really asked that much either in the stretch in this race, and just seems like he's going to be a type that can handle this added ground. Just seems like a bigger type of 2-year-old that was just really ready to go first time out. I just love how he extends his stride while being asked very little in the stretch, and he does get a little shifty with ground in here, but he just draws away so easily from the rest of this field.
Yeah, wide body, the son of Nyquist, and it's funny because he was able to go on too once he got out earlier. A couple of horses around him, he cleared off pretty easily and sprinted away late. So the figure came up okay. A 68 is a 68. They can improve off of that. So we'll see what happens. It's a fun little race. I had a different idea. I ended up on the number 4 I Can in here, who you have third.
Hoping Rick Dutrow can continue.
Yeah, listen, when you go back and you look at this race, okay, people are going to say this horse won by 6.5 going 5 furlongs at, Horseshoe Indianapolis, so what are we doing here? But to be honest, this horse was involved early, then kind of dropped back, then a couple of lengths back on top of that, and then took off around the turn and drew off again and looked really good. And when you pick apart the race, the second place finisher, the 5th place finisher, the last place finisher, they all came back. They improved their numbers next time out. So, this is a horse who's a half also to reasoned analysis, who won at 7 furlongs, won the Bayshore here. So, for me, the mile I don't think is going to be the problem. And I also like that the fact that this horse was involved early, kind of took back a little bit and rallied again. So, we'll see if this horse can come here and put up a good race at a good number, because I don't think this horse is going to take money, even with the role that the Dutcher Barn's been on, because you've got the entry that's going to take money, Cyclone States last race, and we didn't even talk about the horse on the outside.
Yeah, a horse that we both have in 4th, who is stepping back up in class, but has been able to get the distance at least, and that was a solid number versus the kind of numbers we've seen from the rest of this field so far, with My Matoli, who did earn that 74 and that restricted maiden optional claiming race last time out. And if you want to talk about trainers that are on a good run, I know Rick Duttrow's hot streak has really been in your face as far as the type of runners he's been sending out, with the amount of improvement a lot of them have shown in their last race. But Carlos Martin, he's also on a pretty good run right now as well. And I think that this is one that to take the money he did first time out as an early 2-year-old and then be well backed in the wagering in all of his starts so far, I don't think this is one that can completely be left out, but I think this is a little bit more of a class test.
Yeah, I would think so. The second maiden special weight race ran into a couple of good horses that ran 1-2, but last time out, just rated and looked comfortable. That was the first time that this horse actually looked comfortable, actually striding and running. So we'll see what happens. And Carlos has been on a good roll too. This is a fun little race for December.
Yeah.
for 2-year-olds, because we talked about it, like even with horses going straight from maidens into like the Remsen or the Demoiselle, and also this is a nice landing spot for some of these horses.
And you do get a competitive type of field where
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by many in here as we move along to yet another competitive field, but one that has a very heavy favorite on the morning line, and that's the fourth race in here. It's kind of like a mini stakes race in a
Yeah.
way when you have El Grandeo facing off against Reddington, Victory Away coming back off of a lengthy layoff. And I did ultimately go to El Grandeo. I thought that his return race this year was very impressive, coming back after we haven't seen him since the Gotham in March, and he came back with a 94 Beyer speed figure. I know Toxic Gray, who finishes second in here, came back to win with an extremely easy trip given how the pace looked like it was going to develop on paper in that race. But Toxic Gray is a good horse. He's a solid type who's been able to put up some big numbers in his career so far, and El Grandeo is one of the few horses that I thought that day was able to pass horses. It wasn't something that we saw in many of the races that took place on October 24th. He just seems to me like the class of this field, but this isn't a complete walk in the park.
No, I don't think it's a complete walk in the park, but he's a logical for sure to win this race. And last time out, I just thought he got into a nice spot and got a really good ride from Dylan Davis, and it was a good starting point, to get this horse back, and we'll see if they can continue the party today, and from there we'll see where he goes. But listen, he can win in here. It's just he's going to be even money in here against this group, probably more than likely.
Right. And you ended up going to a horse that will be a slightly better price, and that's Reddington towards the outside, who is on a very good run. I mean, you're not going to get the 36-1 that you got when he was able to win 2 starts ago, and he did regress a little bit in that start on November 9th, but that was a good field as well. And I mean, if he can run back to this race, and we're taking a look right now, thank you for switching to Reddington, who, I mean, if he runs this 93 Beyer, he's going to be right there with El Grandeo's last race.
Yeah, for sure. And, listen, it was the first time at the level, for him last time out. And, maybe he just, and I had read where David Aragona mentioned something about him not wanting to really be inside of horses. Like he looked a little bit uncomfortable. So maybe that played into a factor for it. But the fields he ran against, I mean, Luminari's 3 for 4 for Todd. And you look at Mariachi, who's been in the exacta 7 of 9 starts. So, I think in this spot here today, looking at this race, you have a horse like Squire Creek. We'll see what Victory Way does off of the layoff. Maybe El Grandeo is a little bit forward as well. Gun It, we don't know, what kind of race
Sometimes
we'll see on the
has
cutback.
speed.
Yeah, sometimes it's speed, sometimes he doesn't. So I'm hoping this horse falls into just a nice trip, a nice stalking trip in here. And he can sit and pounce, and we've seen him do it before. And if he runs back to any of those 2 races, that he ran, going 7 furlongs, 2 and 3 starts back, it makes him a player in here, depending on what shows up for El Grandeo.
Certainly true. And Victory Way, just what do you do with this horse that's coming
Yeah.
back off such a lengthy layoff? We'll take a look at his win if we have to go all the way back to July of 2023 at Belmont, where he's winning at a mile with a 97 Beyer over Filmstar, who Filmstar at that time was a force to really be reckoned with. And then, okay, he doesn't show up quite as much in that Smarty Jones, but then he's off for so long. We haven't seen him in over a year. And I'm curious to see ultimately what sort of money this horse ends up taking. And David Aragona, our morning line maker, is right more often than not and more often than most. But I kind of wonder if he's going to be bet off of being away for so long.
I wonder if 6.5 is just going to be a little too short for him, but he's run okay at 7. I mean, he's got to get a little faster than those races that he had. But when you look at those races, they were the first 2 starts of his career. So, and the Bayshore was what it was that year. But obviously, the mile he freaked in that race, something obviously went wrong in the Smarty Jones. I mean, he was very wide even after breaking the way he broke. So, bring him back at 6.5, freshen him up. We'll see what he does. I'm probably more apt to watch him today and then get back to him when I see him after this start, what he does. I just don't know that even off of the layoff, as fresh as he is, if he's better right now than El Grandeo and even Reddington.
And this is a tough spot to return after being away for that long, but he does have one of the faster races on the page to his credit. And if he can come back with that kind of performance or possibly improve, I mean, who knows? We could be looking at stakes races for a couple of these going forwards.
Down the
I know El Grandeo is looking to get back to stakes company following this race. At least that seems like the plan so far. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back for races 5 through 8.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Thank you to our sponsors at Saratoga Water, Sarah, Paul. That's a
It's
nice
like-
display
it's like a
there.
little bottle.
Yes, on Talking Horses this morning. And we get to the fifth race in here, and this is where we agree today. And we have a $10,000 claiming race going a mile. And Classic Mark just seems like way the horse to beat based on his last race for sure, where he does finish a narrowly defeated second. Christopher Elliott up that day. Christopher Elliott up the start before that, where he finished second to Hatch, who is in great form right now as well. And it just seems like he took a slight step forward going to Wayne Ponce. They didn't try to raise him up in class based off of that race 2 starts ago. And I think that he's going to get a little bit of that pace he might need to just be the type to get a mid-pack sort of trip. And, I mean, this was a narrow defeat for him last time out.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, High Heat got a nice ride from Erod there, too. Just was aggressive with him and put him on the front and just let him control the race. So, yeah, I mean, this horse just has run fine. He's run the most consistent figures in the field. And, you know, listen, I have no issues with him today. The only thing that I can nitpick on with this horse, and he's a short price, is he just still hasn't won here. He's 0 for 6 over this surface. So they start to do that, even if they're short prices. You start to try and pick apart the races and go, okay, what happened? But, I mean, you know, the couple of seconds are there, and obviously he's turned the corner in his last few starts again. But out of this field, I mean, he is just the most consistent runner.
He is, and we have seen Optic Way really show a lot of speed over his last couple of races, but he just hasn't been able to see things out. And
Yeah.
I sort of wonder how that's going to play out with Winter's Ghost to his inside, who did show some decent speed in his last start and really took a big step forward over that muddy sealed surface going the mile when switching over to Pat Reynolds. And I think if we see something that's similar to that from Winter's Ghost, Dylan Davis getting aboard now, who's likely to be aggressive with him again, if there ends up being that type of pace to develop where Classic Mark just ends up sitting the perfect kind of trip, stalking off of those two horses, who one of them's sort of proven that he hasn't been able to sustain his speed, and another one's going to have to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, in Optic Way's case, until he wins a race, and he hasn't done it since the end of 2022, I'm just not on board. So he just keeps quitting start after start after start for the most part. So in Winter's Ghost case, let's hope he keeps a straight line today.
Yeah.
And he doesn't bore out like he did the last time. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, but listen, I mean, again, he's logical in here, and you would have to think Dylan sent. I mean, obviously, he's getting sent from the inside. It'll be interesting to see because on its face, you know, you look back to 2 starts back, and Optic Way went 22 and 3, and more times than not, he's been going in the 23 range. So it'll be interesting to see if they hook up early on and who lets one go, depending on the break, because I think that's the most important factor, honestly, in this race. You know, because if Winter's Ghost can shake clear and just be alone, he's going to be tough in here.
I
He can
agree.
fight. You know, he's going to be tough if Optic Way doesn't get out of there or doesn't stay with him early.
That's a fair point to make. And we both have frontman sort of in the mix in this spot, because I feel as though he's one that hasn't had as much opportunity to disappoint at a level like this on the dirt, at least. And I think that there, if you go back a long ways, could be potentially some excuses for those dirt races where he is in an off-the-turf race. If you go back to November, you got to go all the way back to
He's got a 73 in there.
2021.
Yeah, you got to dig.
But, I mean, has he ever been in for a level like this on the dirt?
No. This is
So
plummeting
it's an
to the
unknown.
bottom. Yeah, this is plummeting to the bottom here. And if you could ever even find that 73 fig from a long, long time ago, that makes him a competitor. And here it'll be interesting to see how he takes to the dirt in here. And again, you know, that fig was in the mud, I think, too. So his fast track figs left a little something to be desired. But again, if you pick it apart and you find some excuses in here, you could do no worse, you know, rounding out your try. I think honestly, both the 1 and the 7 don't have, they both not have to show up here in order for somebody else to win.
I agree with that. I think that either Winter's Ghost gets a comfortable lead, or he's able to still be game and battle on, or Classic Mark just gets the right kind of setup. And I mean, I wanted to try to make a crazy case for Prince of Joy, who seems to win once a year, right around this time. He's sort of that Christmas type of horse, apparently, where mid-December is the time for him to get his one win at a big price. But I just couldn't do it with the recent form that we've seen from some of the others as we move on to race number 6, where you do have a horse that neither you and I are too interested in, who's going to be a short price, and that's Boss Tweed, who is off the claim for Brad Cox. And here, I just feel like when he's been able to be successful, he's been very fortunate with how the track was playing.
100%.
He's been able to take advantage of wanting to be inside or wanting to be forward, and I just think that I want to see him run a race similar to that over a fair surface before I take him at a short price. Though I guess that he is one that you can rely on to show some speed.
For sure, and I'm a little bit worried that they claimed him and then just dropped him a month and a half later for 25. So that's putting up the red flag saying just take him. And we'll see how the track plays today, because if the track's playing to inside speed, then I would actually move him way up. To me, I agree with you. I just feel like he's dressed up based on the races he was able to control and the way the tracks played that day. So I really don't want too much part of him at a short price.
You went to a price in here, though, with good reunion towards the outside. What did you see with this one, who is stepping up? Well, not really, but stepping up in terms of the field, perhaps, that he's facing relative to the field that he ran into last time for 25.
Look, I know this horse doesn't have a race that's going to, like, jump off the page at you and be like, wow, like, you know, there's something to go back to for him. But when you look at his last race, I think he needed the race probably off the layoff. He was inside that day. Most of the people that were coming, like people, I say people, it was horses.
Matthew DeSantis does that too. He'll always say the people.
The people.
Yeah.
The people's horses.
Is it
it's
a
like
sign of respect?
Yeah, much love, for real. But it's you know, a lot of the running was done outside that day too for horses that were closing into that race too. I think this horse is going to benefit from any pace that we do see up front. You got a couple of horses here that do want to be forward in here. So if you don't like Boss Tweed, think he's going to fall apart, that the track's not playing fair, and the 6 may show some speed as well, and maybe another 1 or 2 in here. I think you're going to get the pace up front. So I think he's going to have to get a little bit faster from a figure standpoint, but a trip standpoint might work out for this horse today, especially second off the layoff and being tighter. Yeah,
we'll see if he can take another step forward off of that last race where he was coming off of a bit of a break, and a horse that had a lengthy layoff over the summer and then was able to come back on the turf, but then switch over to, I thought, a pretty good field, and now is taking a drop in class, is Lots of Trouble, who, I mean, I think that his last race leaves quite a bit to be desired, but overall, I think we were looking at a horse that was just facing some better company that he runs into today. And this is his win if we go back to March 10th, where he's able to defeat Brick Ambush, who at that time was still pretty highly regarded, and he was running against some of the tougher New York breds overall.
Yeah, listen, I just, the only thing I worry about with this horse, it's not even so much the drop, because I think the cutback's going to help. I just want to see this horse do this on a fast track, because I think the talent's there, and I think this horse can actually sit a little bit of a trip in here. I just wonder if this horse is just a better horse on an off track and a little bit turfy as well, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a question mark, and likely to take some money as well when you do see these Todd Pletcher drop downs. I went to Castle Island, who is going to have to show that he can run those 82 types of buyers on this circuit versus the race that he ran last time at Laurel was one where he was really pressing the pace and ended up fading. But this race 2 back where he was able to stalk and then really finish up well, I thought that this was a race that could be competitive in this spot. He was a short price that day in that type of field. It's a question of sort of who he's facing relative to who he's going to be running into here, and he'll have to prove it now coming in. But I think that he's just run some of the faster races overall, and he might end up being one that at least I know he can rate if there is some speed that does develop, and he won't be too far off of things, as it sounds like it's raining cats and dogs.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on above us or behind us, but it's pretty wild. I don't know if anybody can hear that, but that sounds like they're moving the whole building. Maybe they started shutting down the
maybe the races are being run upstairs.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. Is training still going on upstairs? So
yeah, I guess so.
Look, this horse is definitely well spotted in here to stalk the pace in here. And actually, I think in some ways the field down at Laurel was actually tougher than the field this horse is facing today. Because, I mean, you look at a horse like Search Engine Buyers in the 80s regularly for Brittany Russell. The horse that ran third is Viper in there is another Brittany Russell horse. The horse that ran second, Armando R, has been in the exacta 21 of 45 starts. So
consistent.
In some ways, there was a better, better group at least as far as recency goes. So I have the horse third in here. I don't knock this horse at all. I mean, for me, it was a lot of 4, 5s, and 8s to get me through in anything I was playing in here, but the 8 was definitely the horse I was looking at price.
And both against the favorite in that spot. As we move on to our feature of the day, a horse, or a race rather, where there should be some pace on, at least it seems so on paper.
We hope.
We'll see if it ends up materializing. It's always a question around here. But we do see Brown Sugar Babe come here instead of a stakes race where she didn't end up scratching. And we saw her do very well on this circuit over her last couple of starts. She had a win 3 back. Then she has a 3rd place finish as the short priced favorite, going the 1 1/8 distance, able to get the win last time out. Do you question the 1 1/8 perhaps being just a touch too far for her? Do you think it was more a function of the pace she was involved in and a part of really being a little bit snappy for the distance 2 back where she was able to finish 3rd and was defeated?
I think it's a combination of both. I think maybe she just doesn't want to go the 1 1/8 and her better efforts are going a little bit shorter, and maybe she just got kind of swept up in the way things went, and being wide in that
Bernie
race.
Takes Charge got a great trip in there.
Got a really sweet trip in there. So you can't knock any of those starts, really. All 3 of them have been decent starts in here, and we'll see what happens today. I would think, today they're going to probably sit just maybe off a little bit of the pace. So we'll see what happens. Maybe another one of those trips where this horse is sitting 3rd. Get one of those little inside-out trips or being 2 or 3 wide early. We'll see what happens in here. This horse is logical in here. I don't have a knock on this horse. So got the horse on top in here, and I'm just hoping for a much sweeter trip going shorter.
Yeah, I mean, she's way the horse to beat coming into this spot. I think that she just might have to deal with some other speed, as well as Bernie Takes Charge, who got that dream trip to defeat her. And I think that stamp of approval is really the horse that determines what this pace ultimately looks like. But does Bernie Takes Charge need the lead to really be this successful? This was a big performance from her where she was able to just really bottom out this field and keep moving. And I just don't know if we're going to see that same type of setup for her happen again today, where she was really able to take that step forward and win with that 82 Beyer speed figure, and a performance that we had not really seen from her on a regular basis on the dirt, though she did have that 185 in the past, finishing 2nd to My Main Squeeze.
Yeah, and I just kind of feel like even last time when you look at the race, they ran 1, 2, 3 around the track too. So I just kind of feel like there was no real movement. That's why I wanted to correct myself, because I did say Brown Sugar Babe going shorter. She's going to 1 1/8, she's stretching out. So I just want to correct that. But
I was going to be so offended if you didn't.
I
wonder. The day was really
I
just
ruined. Yeah, I know. I made your weekend, and we just got started. It's only Friday. I just wonder in here if the function of Bernie Takes Charge going to the front last time was more of the stretch out, and they just let the horse go last time. Because when you dig back in past performances, when this horse is stretched out, this horse has kind of been a little bit more forward off those races. We'll see today what happens in here. Again, you talked about the 2 stamp of approval. I'm assuming from the inside, Johnny's going to be a little bit aggressive because nobody around him's got speed, so he could just really break and find a spot in there. We'll see what happens when the running starts there.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for some speed in this race for the horse that I ultimately picked on top, and that's Just Music, who does have to get a bit faster. But I think that the best way to win for a couple of these horses is to be forward or to be on the lead, and so I remain ever hopeful and perhaps foolishly so that we'll see some pace develop around these types of races, especially going the 1 1/8, where I sort of wonder if that's ideal for some of the types in this spot. Just Music, I know that she can get a little bit more of the distance. She had that propensity to finish 2nd for quite some time, but I think that she's taken a step forward mentally with having more of a winning instinct over her last couple of races. And I know that her last start was not very good, ultimately going this distance, and she did run a fast number, 73, finishing off the board, or finishing 3rd rather, behind Bonadue and Camera in there. But I think that she's one that if I see this race heating up, she's going to get the type of setup. Now, whether or not that actually happens, who knows?
Forever the optimist, Sarah.
But
Forever
I
the
mean,
optimist.
I think that both Stamp of Approval and Bernie Takes Charge, their best way to win would to be forward, and they're not both going to get the lead.
No, and I think too. I mean, when you look at the race too, as far as Just Music goes, I mean, the 75, the 71, 73. I mean, when you look around, they're all putting up basically the same numbers anyway for the most part, with horses outside of her, except the last race for Bernie Takes Charge and Brown Sugar Babe, the way it played out. And even a horse on the outside like Fade to Gray was probably going to take money in here. I have
Is
the
she
horse second
any
in here.
good? I don't know what to do with her.
It's just I wish that maybe now 3rd off the left. I mean, but it's basically been the same race twice against winners. and the win, the horse was with the track, so I really just don't know what to do. Again, this is a horse that is going to be in a good spot again, but I just don't know if this horse is going to be able to kick on and finally get over this hump in this level.
And
So we'll see.
with the racetrack, when she got that
Yeah.
big win, very
She's had
against the
every race.
racetrack when
Yeah.
she ran 2 starts back. But then last time, I guess it was kind of the time to see if that was where the middle
Yeah,
ground
it's-
was with her, and it just wasn't really all that impressive.
It's almost
but
like Adjust Music. They ran even races, and it's just you don't
Yeah.
get to judge. And I love horses that run even races and don't back up, but I need to see more the next time they run. Like I just don't want to see them
Precisely.
run the same thing again. So we'll see what happens with Just Music and Fade to Gray.
yeah, kind of an unknown
Yeah.
overall what her level of ability or not is. But
Yeah.
she's still lightly raced, so who knows? I just don't think that the prices can measure it with
No, she's going
what
to
we've
take money.
seen
Yeah, it's
so
Todd's horse.
far.
Yeah, she's going to take money.
Right, as we move on to the finale today, and it's the 8th race, a maiden optional claiming for the 2-year-olds, and we're going a mile. I went to a horse that is dropping or has been at this level and has been able to run fairly well and show some speed at least before fading, and that's Brave Bear, who was running against My Matoli, who's taking that step up earlier on in today's card. Just not a ton going on in this race based on overall form that we've seen so far, but a horse that did, I thought, run very well at the OBS sales is Willingness, who you don't have in the mix, who I do have in third. I don't love when horses sell for a certain price and then we do see them debut for less than
Yeah.
that. Did sell for $60,000, and then after working in 10 2/5, and the sire higher power, just not really showing up with the first crop so far. 0 for 27 first-time starters, but I like this work. I thought that this was a pretty professional workout, did work in blinkers, but I thought not asked overtly to get the kind of time, and I like the stride on this one. Just seemed very professional, very capable of, I don't know, maybe showing up at a level like this where I just haven't seen that much from some of the horses that have experience so far.
Yeah, he's got a nice back end stride to him. I'll give him that on there too. Got a little crack to get going early, but then finished up well in the work. So I have this horse. I think this horse was my 5th pick in here. I guess by the time I moved everything up with the scratches, because I originally had the 8/3 in here. But listen, it's a race where you wonder if a horse can kind of get in front or sit in the 2nd or 3rd spot if this horse is going to win, because you just don't see horses with this kind of form close from far out of it unless something completely melts down. So I mean, listen, I was just taking a shot in here with a horse who I thought came out of the best dirt race, 3 starts back for a Laird of Magnolia. So
Yeah, did no running, but certainly facing tougher. Then they go to the turf. I get it, but
the
I
drop,
don't
too,
know.
will
There's just plenty to suggest that this is a horse that off the debut, not breaking all that well, and coming out of a race that's proved to be fairly live moving forwards. I think that this one is just getting some very logical class relief and could certainly improve off of that first race.
Yeah, and dropping in class, I think, is going to help this horse too. And I also think this horse is going to be a little bit more forward. I know it didn't have that much speed on debut, but I think today with Dylan getting aboard too, I think this horse is going to be a little bit closer, at least in range anyway, early, I hope.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And then another horse who did take the drop into this type of company last time out and kind of just didn't show much, but at least was forward as well. That's Tapizar's Temper. I sort of wonder if this one, as well as Brave Bear, are going to have similar dynamics as they did last time, because they both canceled each other out, but maybe somebody has a different tactic coming into this spot since that didn't work out for them last time.
I'll say this, though. I mean, if you look at the start last time for Tapizar's Temper, Jose Lascano went sideways in the
that
saddle.
was a serious
when you look
bump.
at that. So that was a pretty serious bump and still managed to show speed, which I liked. Obviously, then gave way late. So we'll see what happens today. Again, 2nd time at this class, and maybe with a better break today, with a cleaner break.
And you have Arcadian in the mix as well, who is going to be one that needs to improve a little bit, but is stretching out in distance.
Yeah, first time gelding. I think the stretch out might help a little bit. Johnny Velasquez saw fit to take the mount. Greg Sacco's done well with some 2nd-time starters, so we'll see what happens. And better start, too, because this horse got away a little bit slow last time.
A tough puzzle to close things out on today's card, and that'll wrap things up for you and I. And I know that you have to head upstairs shortly to get things started on
get some
today's
time, yeah.
card. And you can play all the action here, Oaklawn, Caymanas Park tomorrow. If you head on over to Naira Bets, get that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus with your bonus 200 promo code. You can play today's races. It's what Flavia Pratt would want if you head on over there. And Track Stats, get some more insight into how to bet the races coming up. Matthew DeSantis works tirelessly, and I don't know when that man sleeps, but he's always doing something involving horse racing to make sure that the information is out there that he's able to collect data for. Of course, we also have The Saturday contest tomorrow, $300 buy-in. It's a good one. Plenty of graded stakes action on the card throughout, culminating with that Cigar Mile as the final graded stakes of the day. If you want to get involved, head on over to NYRABets/contests. And we have the $3,000 hit and split, the late pick 3 here. And/or Oakland Park. You have to opt in over at Naira Bets, but you don't want to win and lose out on what's essentially free money at that point if you've already put together a winning ticket for either. You can also play the cross-country pick 5. 2 races from here, the final 2, heading on over to Oaklawn, races 5, 6, and 7. Oaklawn opening day, of course. We have Paula Duca, Lafitte Pinkai the third, right over there at Oaklawn. Plenty of live action coming up from there. And you can catch all of it on America's Day at the Races. Coverage starts at noon today. We go until 6 o'clock tonight. You'll be getting tired of both Paul and I, as well as the rest of the crew, but lots of exciting races coming up this weekend, and it's really one of the last big weekends we have right here at Aqueduct, so make sure to tune in for all of the action. Head on over, and good luck today.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.